you. I was 60 and newly retired from my 37-year career as a probation officer with Los Angeles County. I was lost and didn't know what to do with myself. A friend told me about classes for seniors at Emeritus College in Santa Monica. I looked in the catalog and found a scene study class under the theater arts section. I just assumed that the students sat in their seats and went around the room with each one reading a line or two from a play before discussing and analyzing it. Well, I'd always enjoyed plays, and I figured I could handle that. So I enrolled. I walked into the class on the first day. Everyone else there seemed to know each other. They had obviously been taking the class for a while. I was the new kid on the block and felt a bit intimidated. Right after I found a seat, a man approached me. "You want to read this with me?" he said, holding out a few sheets of paper. "Okay," I answered, not quite understanding what he meant. He walked up to the front of the room and turned to see if I was following him. "Come on," he said with a spark of irritation in his voice, since I hadn't moved from my chair. Oh my God, we're supposed to read standing in front of everybody, I thought. I felt like running out, but how could I? I was a mature senior after all. I could hear my heartbeat banging around against my eardrums. During my career, I had worked with murderers, robbers, rapists, and the like, the most feared members of society. Nevertheless, I had never conquered my agonizing stage fright ever since I had to give a book report in front of the class in grammar school. The other kids always snickered and teased the poor sucker trying to read his damned report. Slowly, dragging it out as long as I could, I made my way up to the front of the class to join the man who had handed me the script. It was a scene from Death of a Salesman, an exceptionally complex play. I had never acted in my life, nor had any aspirations to do so. I began to read my lines in a very shaky voice. All of a sudden, a strange thing happened to me. I became so engrossed in the role that I completely forgot that a room full of strangers was watching me and judging me and maybe snickering. When we were finished, everyone dutifully clapped. I looked up and realized where I was and that I was not Willie Loman's wife from the play. What a high! I was hooked. A few weeks later, my mother died, and my usually outgoing, charismatic father was depressed and withdrawn. "Come with me to my acting class, Daddy," I blurted out without even thinking about it. "You can just sit in the back of the room and you don't have to do anything." It took some convincing, but I finally wore him down. We entered the classroom a few days later and sat in the last row. About midway through the class, the teacher called on my father to come up front to participate in an improv exercise with another student. I was concerned that he wouldn't want to do it, but he stood up and walked jauntily toward the front. While reading, he really seemed to be enjoying himself. On our way home, Dad wanted to know what time I was picking him up next week for our class. That began a magical journey, attending the class for the next 3 years. We bonded more during those years than we had in the previous 60. I started writing scenes for us as there just wasn't any professional material available for an 85-year-old man. The only real writing I had ever done was as a probation officer, composing reports for judges to assist them in sentencing criminal defendants. I had never done any creative writing. Nevertheless, I had to try. I wrote humorous dad and daughter scenes where Dad was an irascible old man and daughter was always tearing her hair out with his antics, not always terribly far from the truth. We performed our scenes in the acting class showcases twice a year on stage before live audiences. We were the only senior father and daughter team ever in that class, and the audiences adored us. I was starting to gain more confidence in myself, and my stage fright was pretty much gone. I networked with other class members and learned how to go on auditions for real acting jobs. After a few awkward tries at it, I got better. I had professional headshots taken. I created a resume which was pretty sparse with only the roles I'd done in class. Soon I booked my first paid acting job. It was a commercial and I earned $400. I couldn't believe it. Didn't they know I would have done it for free? After a while, I got an agent, went on even more auditions, and booked more jobs. I slowly started to feel like a real actress as my resume began filling up. Of course, I shared it all with Dad, who was living in a nursing home by then. He was experiencing it vicariously through me. We loved talking acting whenever we could. I have now appeared in numerous roles in commercials, television, film, theater, and print media. I often work at UCLA Medical School, portraying patients for student training. I have played such diverse roles as a granny rapper, a sexy senior, and a trash-talking gangster granny with a machine gun. Most recently, I appeared last month on TV in a comedy skit on the Film Independent Spirit Awards, playing the mother of the show host, Patton Oswalt. The story of my transition from retired probation officer to senior actress has been written about in Time magazine, the Los Angeles Times newspaper, and in Marlo Thomas's newly published book that profiles 60 different women who have reinvented themselves. I wrote a memoir about it all, which was published last year, entitled Adventures with Dad, a Father and Daughter's Journey Through a Senior Acting Class. And I included all of the dad and daughter scenes I performed with my father in the class showcases. I'm blogging now, and my blog is called Reinventing Myself in My Senior Years. My goal is to inspire baby boomers and seniors to find a passion as a motivation to embrace life, just like I did. My new life, my second act, all came about because I took the plunge and read that scene in a senior community acting class 12 years ago, instead of running out as I had wanted to do.